Welcome to the Adapt Podcast, a podcast for executive leaders looking to be successful in the digital age. Get practical tips from successful leaders and listen as digital movers and shakers talk about how they transformed companies into the digital era. Here is your host, Luis Gonzalez.
Welcome to another episode of the Adapt Podcast. Today is the number 7, and with us we have Venâncio Velloso, Chief Digital Officer at Genial Investments. He's nominated or was nominated the top global Chief Digital Strategist in 2020 by ACMG. Venâncio, it's a pleasure to have you here. Thank you so much for having the time to talk with us and to share your experience with us. Thank you so much for being here, Venâncio.
Oh, it's a pleasure.
Go for it. Come on, don't be shy.
It's a pleasure, Luis, to be here talking with you and everyone from Evolution for All. Thank you so much for the invitation and looking forward for our talk.
Yo, no problem at all. It's a pleasure. So, Venâncio, for knowing you a little bit or to get to know you a little bit, I always ask a small introduction so that people understand who is our guest and what he's doing and so what he's bringing to this world with superpower. So it would be super cool if you could do a 2-3 minutes introduction about who are you and what have you been doing in the last couple of years.
Sure. I have 40 years old. I'm husband of Karina and the dad of Davi, which is a newborn of 7 months. So we're very happy with Davi. I was born and raised in Rio de Janeiro, in Brazil.
Carioca.
Carioca da Gema, into a family of entrepreneurs, which I had the privilege to study at the American School of Rio, also known as ERJ. After graduating from ERJ in 1999, at the age of 18, I went to study abroad in Boston, which I graduated from Babson College in 2003. And a couple of years later, after it was pretty much 3 years later after the dot-com bubble burst, which you might which you must remember. Yes. I decided against all odds and everyone's advice to invest all of my savings, which wasn't a lot at the time, into my entrepreneurial dream, leading to co-found my first startup company called VTEX. So in essence, my career, let's say, can be divided into 3 tracks. The first track was an entrepreneurial track of co-founding 3 companies. The first company was VTEX, which today is the leading e-commerce cloud platform in LATAM, with a footprint in over 40 countries. And it has recently announced its IPO, scheduled for July 21st at the New York Stock Exchange.
Wow.
So we're very excited.
Very cool.
Great news.
Very cool.
Very proud of the whole team. I unfortunately I exited the company in 2009, but still, but I still, I still have a great connection with my ex-founders, and I'm very, very proud of them and their achievement. After VTEX, I co-founded another 2 startups. The second startup was Sapatinho, which was the first online shoes and accessory store here in Brazil back in 2007, and Web Pesados, which became one of the leading heavy equipment marketplaces here in Brazil till today. So this was kind of like my entrepreneurial track, right? The second track was as a consultant, which I pretty much helped big groups or enterprise companies such as Grupo Traquebel, Aliança Sonai, Atier Von Hatt, to go through their digital transformation journey and innovate at startups. So I pretty much, use all of my experience as an entrepreneur and implemented the best practices into these companies by digitalizing, from process to like a new business inside their corporations.
So you are going you went in the contrary direction. So I started as a consultant, and now I'm helping more and more startups. So it's exactly the other direction, but it's cool. Very interesting.
I'm gonna get there. And then after 3 years as a consultant, I got bored. It was a very a one-man job, and I took a sabbatical year to do my MBA. So I went to MIT, did a fast track MBA called Sloan Fellows Program, which is very cool. I highly recommend it. And at the middle of the course, I was invited to join Amazon to expand Amazon's marketplace in Brazil. So to me, it was kind of like a no-brainer, right? I've been like working with e-commerce since my early days, and having the opportunity to help, one of the leading e-commerce companies of the world into my own market would be
Yes.
like an awesome opportunity. So I got back in Brazil in 2007, joining Amazon's marketplace expansion team, which I helped them develop their go-to-market strategy for marketplace fulfillment centers, and also expand into other categories or stores such as electronics, sports, office supplies, and so on and so forth, right? And then in 2019, I was invited to join Genial as a partner and as the CDO, right? And so just to give a quick, a brief introduction about it, Genial is one of the leading online brokers in Brazil, with over 140 billion reais in assets under custody and a little bit over 450,000 clients.
Wow.
And in retrospect, Luis, I had a very atypical journey, like you said, right? Because most people start their careers in the corporate world, and then they, after a couple of years, they shift to become an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
I did completely the opposite. I started off as an entrepreneur and then shifted to become an executive, right? So it's pretty mind-boggling. And I like to think that I was very lucky and at the same time fortunate to have followed my instincts and become an entrepreneur early on. But my 2 cents here is that the opportunity cost of failure while you're young is much lower than
Yes.
when you're older with a family. And that's what
Yes.
really motivated me to become an entrepreneur early on.
Yeah, yeah. My mom. So my parents, when I left Portugal 2004, I was 23, 24. I don't remember. And my parents just told me, that is the right moment to leave the country, because if you screw up something, we put you the money on the bank account, you buy the ticket back to Portugal, and you come back. Because right now it's the right moment to try new things. And I fully agree with you. When you don't have a family, when you don't have a wife, when you don't have any bigger responsibilities, that's the time for you to try out. But I fully agree with you on the career path, because I started in the enterprise. So a lot of the people that listen to this podcast, they know me a bit. I started in Nokia in Finland, where I learned all this agility, Scrum, Kanban. So that's how I end up in this crazy world. And then, bored of working with enterprises, I started my own consulting company. And now more and more I'm turning into an investor and more a startup guy, and looking to open more and more small business. And it's a bit different career than yours, but I think then when you start with your own company, there is no way going back. There is no turning back.
Exactly.
So the small bug gets inside of you, and you just cannot stop. Cool.
Yep.
With such a beautiful introduction and really huge experience, I think that you are a perfect guy to answer the first question of the show. Digital transformation is a buzzword. Everyone talks about digital transformation. A lot of people don't know what digital transformation is. So we always like to start this show asking to our guests, what is it, digital transformation for you? What is the meaning of it, and how do you see digital transformation in our world? Venâncio.
Great. So there's a famous book called The Digital Transformation Playbook by David Rogers.
Oh, I have it.
Uh,
I have it somewhere. Somewhere.
yeah,
Somewhere. It's a great book. Highly recommended.
Yeah, I highly recommend the reading because I personally read a lot of books about digital transformation. In this particular book, David Rogers was able to give a digital transformation framework
Yep.
with five strategy domains to help companies embark into the digital transformation process. And one of the quotes that I really like about Rogers is where he defines digital transformation is that the digital transformation is not about updating technology, but rather updating strategic thinking or mindset, right? And that has to do a lot with what I believe, because most of the people think that digital transformation is about technology, right? But what is technology if the people inside the company or the organization are not capacitated to use the technology?
Yes.
So imagine you implement the best tools and services out there in the market. Like, let's say, for instance, Salesforce, Zendesk, HubSpot, all of these, sales and marketing tools to help you improve your customer relationship management, right? The point is, if the people inside the organization are not well trained and capacitated to use these tools, the tool will be useless.
Yeah.
So at the end of the day, digital transformation, it's all about the change of people's mindset. Is helping people do an update of their strategic thinking, of using new methodologies, of using new processes, and the best practices that are out there.
We had this discussion actually in the last episode of this podcast. The technology point of view popped up as well, and at that time we discussed that technology is just an enabler. So it's something that basically it's there, it's needed, but it's an enabler, right? The mindset is much more important. The strategy, the business strategy, the direction where you want to take the business model, right, is so much more important than just technology. But a lot of people, as you said, a lot of people believe.
And if you allow me to add, there's another famous essay from Mark Anderson called "Why Software is Eating the World," where he described, which was published by the Wall Street Journal back in 2011, which I also highly recommend. And it pretty much explains why these new entrants or digital-born companies are disrupting so many industries or traditional business models in the world today. If you think about it, technology, the emergence of new technology has never been faster, right? Nowadays, almost everybody has a smartphone or a cell phone, which has an incredible computing processing power, right? So this alone has, pretty much shifted the entire landscape of business, and consequently the way businesses interact with their customers, right? So if you think about it, and one of the great points that Anderson highlights during his essay is the fact that most of the digital companies or new entrants that are disrupting industries, it's because they were able to leverage on top of new business models, while traditional businesses were still had a fixed mindset and still fixed with the old traditional business model. So meaning that the traditional businesses, they didn't leverage on top of the new technology to implement in a speed and velocity required to retain or avoid these new entrants of gaining market share and disrupting industries. So if you think about it, today, Facebook is one of the most popular media providers without creating any content
whatsoever.
Uber is the world's largest taxi company who owns no vehicle.
Airbnb.
Netflix is the fastest growing television network without any cables. Airbnb, the largest accommodation provider without any real estate, and so on. So in essence, the digital age to me is, it's the software revolution, considering all the computing and information power we have today, where new entrants or born digital companies are challenging traditional incumbents who will have to embark on a digital transformation journey if they wish to remain competitive.
Yes. Wow, thank you so much. Really, really nice introduction. Vanessa, tell me something. So digital transformation has good things and bad things, and I want to start for the traditional companies, and I wanted to start with the good things. What do you see? So you have such a big experience in startups, corporates, MIT, give you a lot of good, interesting experience as well, case studies. What do you think that are the biggest advantage that digital era will bring or is bringing to the traditional companies, and how can they utilize that to become better companies?
I believe the ability to reimagine their business models completely with new technologies that are out there and transform their business by generating high impact results is definitely one of the biggest opportunities that traditional businesses have. Another opportunity the digital age brings to traditional businesses, in my opinion, is the ability of the leadership to rewire their mindset and learn new methodologies. Given that most of the successful and traditional business owners, most of them are older executives weren't who didn't probably never worked in a digital company,
Yeah.
so they don't know new methodologies such as agile or frameworks such as Kanban and Scrum or even like OKRs. They have no clue or whatsoever about these new methodologies that are out there.
No,
So
once my one of my old bosses, he was one of the best leaders I ever met. He is now 53, 54. And he was a very humble guy, very, very, very smart, very humble. And he told me, in a very private conversation, he said, "What I feel sometimes very concerned or dismotivated because now I'm a CEO. At that time, he had a budget of 2,000 million euros, 2,000 million euros. Imagine the budget that he has per year." And he said, I am where I am. I am in this position with this responsibility. But I know that everything what I did during my 30, 40 years of my career will not allow me to have the same results as I had in the past. So I need one of the biggest challenges with this new era is I need to relearn everything what I learned during the last 30 to 40 years. And I think this is one of the biggest difficulties that they might have, but at the same time, it's a huge opportunity as well. So
exactly.
if you have this mindset and if you really are humble to see this, you can actually connect all the knowledge that you bring from the old world, let's say, with the new technology, not the new technology, but the new knowledge of the digital era. And I think this is a huge opportunity for leaders to really, really come up with the really great business models, really great ideas, and turn their companies to a completely new direction.
Yeah, and building upon your comment, Luis, if you think about it, the world has changed,
Mm-hmm.
becoming more digital, agile, and complex. But what about us? What changes have we made? How many new habits or methodologies have we learned? What processes or innovations have we managed to launch recently by thinking differently or challenging the status quo? So these are a few of the strategic questions that I believe every leader from a traditional business should be asking themselves or acting upon right now.
Yes, and this is so important because at the end of the day, leadership is everything, right? And it's up to them, to the leaders, to really change the organization because they can really save or can really put them completely down. Awesome! Really excited with this episode. Tell me, we talked a little bit about the advantage, but tell me a little bit about the disadvantage. What do you see as the huge or the biggest problems that companies are facing with this digital age, seeing all these startups popping up, as you say, or all is super complex nowadays? 70, 80 years ago, the average lifetime of a company was 70, 80 years old, 70, 80 years. Nowadays, it's like 10, 12, something like that. So how do you see, what are the challenges that you really see for big companies that this digital age is bringing to them?
Yeah. So building upon the last, question as well, I think the one of the biggest challenges the digital age is bringing to traditional businesses, to business owners, is the change of mindset. Right. I mean, if the leadership wish to evolve, they need to have this, to be open, right? To be open to rewire their mindset, and also to learn new methodologies, new processes, and new habits. So if the leaders, I guess one of the biggest challenges is not only changing the mindset, but also to figure out a way to influence an entire organization to change old customs and culture can be very challenging. Specifically, if the company is growing, right? So imagine a company is growing, everything is doing great.
How are
Will
you
you
going to create the
convince?
urgency? How are you going to
Yeah,
create the urgency
how
that
will
you
you
need to change?
convince? Exactly. When everything is going bad, okay, it's fine. I mean, it's easier, right? But when everything is going great, and if the company is growing, how will you be able to influence the leadership team to change? So changing a traditional company's culture and leadership's mindset is, to me, one of the biggest challenges that digital age brings.
Yeah, so I talked already sometimes about this example, right? So as I started this episode saying, and a lot of people know that I worked in Nokia, right? So everyone knows what happened to Nokia. So a lot of people has opinion about what happened to Nokia. The result, of course, is always iPhone, but I have a different opinion, right? So I worked several years in Nokia. So I joined Nokia when Nokia was an Apple at that time. So I never saw so much money, such a successful company as Nokia was at that time. So I have my own opinion, and my opinion, and this is my personal opinion, is arrogance. What killed Nokia was simply arrogance, right? Because we were so good that we were not convinced that iPhone was actually a threat. So iPhone came to the market, and everyone says, "Why should we change? We
Right.
we are
Why should we change with a successful business model,
we
right?
are a world leader, right? We have 94% of the market at that time. I think it was 94% of the mobile phone market in the world. It's something crazy. You don't even think about it. Not even today, Apple can do that. They split Samsung between Samsung and Apple, right? But we were so successful. How the hell the leadership team would be able to convince the entire company that we were in risk? So, and we know what happened, right? So I fully with you. So if there is no urgency, and I think this is one of the big things, the pre-requirements for change to happen, is you need to have the urgency. If everything is okay, then it's very hard to actually convince everyone. And even when you understand that you need to change, you cannot change a monster like a 2,000, 3,000, 4,000 people organization in a couple of months, right?
Exactly.
The culture is there. Usually these kind of companies have people working there for 25, 30, 40 years time there, so they don't know any other reality. So it's really tricky, a really
Yeah.
tricky one. So not an easy one. Cool, Venâncio. Now I have a question more focused on your current challenges. I'm very curious now. So you said that you work in Genial Investimentos. You guys have million or billions of reais in under you guys. How how is digital age helping this kind of industry to grow, right? So I have my assumptions, but I really would love to hear from you how this, for some, maybe boring, but with the digital world, maybe you have so many other. Oh, you have some visits there. Yeah, how this digital era is helping a company, investment company like yours to acquire new customers, to offer new services, and to enter into the new market. We are very curious about that.
Okay, perfect. So just to give you a little bit of background, Genial Investimentos was founded in 2016 by a roll-up of three financial companies without any digital expertise, meaning that in 2018, the company started its digital transformation journey by hiring its first employees from reputable digital companies in BR in Brazil, right, to join the marketing and sales department. In 2019, I joined the company with the mission to lead the digital transformation journey. And like I said, I'm a big fan of David Rogers. So we adapted David Rogers' digital transformation framework and defined 5 domains of strategy to, go through the digital transformation process. And those 5 domains were culture, process, client, innovation, and data. Over the last 2 years, almost 2.5 years that I've been, leading the company into this digital transformation journey, we worked really hard on each of these 5 domains in order to increase Genial's digital maturity. In the data domain, we went from a first generation BI or data warehouse to a third generation data ops lakehouse, generating fully automated KPIs, performing ingestion, treatment, preparation of immediate availability of indicators in real time. With the new lakehouse, managers, analysts, and data scientists were able to work in the same environment, fostering data-driven decisions through self-service analytics and predictive models in seconds rather than weeks. So the data collection process increased 10x, helping to disseminate a data-driven culture throughout the entire organization.
Wow.
In the innovation domain, we started Genial Labs by using lean and agile methodologies, increasing the software development speed by 6x, and developing a new tech stack using state-of-the-art technologies. And in July of 2020, we launched Genial's new web app platform with a platform architecture built on APIs and microservices, increasing performance drastically. With simple UX, a clean layout, increasing our ranking from 3.8 to 4.5 at Apple and Google Play stores. In addition, we also launched InvestFlix, which is a recommendation engine catered to offer financial assets catered to 3 different investment profiles: conservative, moderate, and bold investors. We created a new section on the app called Opportunities to recommend financial assets based on a few categories, such as highlights of the week and look-alike. And, this became, so investing in essence became as easy as if the investor was browsing for a movie on Netflix. And that's why the name InvestFlix, right?
Wow.
In the culture domain, we have recently implemented a new management model in January of this year using OKRs, or objective and key results, right? And the OKRs is helping to transform Genial's culture by first increasing focus and measuring what really matters. Second, improving strategic alignment across the entire organization, thus eliminating silos, which is very common in traditional businesses. Third, improving ownership and commitment by reviewing and calibrating results in a weekly, monthly, and quarterly basis. And fourth, achieving awesome results of 67% growth of net income during the first quarter over quarter, right? So these are a couple of changes that we've made over the past 2 years and 4 months that I've been leading Genial Investimentos with its digital transformation journey.
So digital era is bringing good stuff for you.
For sure. I can't complain.
I really like the book, the Digital Transformation Playbook, and actually I took his course. So he has
awesome.
He has a course in Columbia University, a digital transformation, and I really took his course, and I took a lot of his ideas to my latest book, because definitely Rogers has he has very, very interesting very interesting approaches. But yeah, you took it further. You literally implemented in your organization. It's very, very, very interesting the way how you are implementing it. I will leave your contact on the footnote. So if anyone wants to know
Please.
more about Genial Investimentos, I think it's really, really great what you guys are doing. So I will leave your LinkedIn contact on the footnote, so that if anyone wants to know more about you and your company, they can contact you. Cool. So I want to ask two more questions. So the first question is, you have such a huge experience in such a huge diverse type of companies. I wanted to ask, what was the biggest lesson that you took out of your entire career?
Wow, that's a loaded question. But I believe one of the biggest lessons I learned during my career thus far is to find your purpose and passion. It seems very simple at first, but it's easier said than done. And I see a lot of people whining about their jobs or life. And I ask myself, what are they doing about it? For instance, if you are not happy at your job, you search for a new job, right? But if you don't understand your purpose and passion in life, the probability of running into another bad job experience is huge.
Yes.
So most people that I know live their lives without knowing their purpose and passion. And to make the journey without knowing your passion, well, in my opinion, you haven't lived a life at all. Yeah. So I guess that's one of the biggest lessons that I have learned so far.
It's interesting what you are saying, because so I knew that I would, at some point in my time in the beginning, I knew that I would open my own company at some point, right? So I did not know what kind of company, how I would open it, what I would do. I just knew that I would open it. So at that time, I did not have my purpose. I just had some really vague idea. And then I opened Evolution for All. And even after opening my Evolution for All, I was a consultant, and I thought that my purpose would be to just help organizations. But at the end of the day, more I worked, more I figured out what I wanted. I truly found my purpose, which is basically is helping the leaders to succeed. In reality, it's a consulting business, but my vision is to help the leaders to succeed. And now I feel fully engaged with my job, right? And a lot of people believe it's just a consulting, but for me, it's much more than that. It's really almost like a one-on-one consultation.
Yeah. Just to give you an example, my life's purpose is to innovate, transform, and impact. If I'm in a place where it doesn't allow me to perform one of these three words, eventually I will linger out, and I'll just be wearied out and leave the job. Yes. So in every company or new opportunity that I look, or that I analyze, I always ask myself, is this company aligned with my purpose? Am I going to be able to innovate, transform, and impact with this new opportunity?
If the answer is no, very interesting.
If the answer is no, then you automatically know that you won't be engaged, or at some point in time you just won't give a damn about the opportunity, right? So to me, it's very important to understand your purpose. Very, very important to understand your purpose and your passion.
A couple of years ago, my business coach, at that time I had a mentor business coach, he did a very cool exercise to me. So he did an exercise where we found the 3 most important values on the personal level and the 3 most important values on the professional level. And it was exactly what he said. So then we took a look into it, and he said, tell me on your personal level, on personal life, when are you frustrated, when you are anxious, when you are not happy, where you are not 100% feeling good. And I thought about several situations, and it was very funny because there were situations where I did not have these three big values for my personal life. And then, of course, we did the same for the professional life, and it was exactly the same. So when we did not find these three values on the professional life, I somehow felt unhappy or felt anxious or whatever. And it's very, very interesting how something so simple can actually bring so much, let's say, clarity for your life, right? Yeah. So, man, thank you so much for really cool point. Okay, so the last question for the show, we always ask, and I think that you have plenty of authority to answer this one, is what is the advice that you have for leaders that are started, but especially young leaders that they are starting the leadership in the leadership position? What is your biggest advice that you have for these guys?
So leaders are readers. If you want to become a leader, you should strive to read a lot, my friend, and have a continuous learning process. And the reason I'm saying that is simply because we have been trained since our early days to study on a specific format, right? So we go to school, we go to high school, we graduate, we go to college, we graduate, we go to MBA. So we're always stopping to study, if you think about it. However, the most successful leaders are the ones who neglect this, programmed study process and embarks on a continuous learning cycle. Mm-hmm. So I have a personal goal of reading one book a month. And one of my favorite books this year that I highly recommend is Measure What Matters by John Doerr.
Yeah, okay.
And one of my another tip that I give is I'm taking this course. It's called Quick Learning or Quick Reading, something like that boosts your reading speed, right? And this is very curious because when I first looked at this course, I was like, this is BS, right? I'm not going to buy this. But then the guy, Jim Quick, he was so compelling, and he made like very plausible arguments, such as a book has around 64,000 words, meaning that if you have an average word per minute rate of 200 words, you're able to read a book in 1 month by reading just 50 minutes per day. That's not a lot if you think about it, right? Yes. 15 minutes a day. If you dedicate 15 minutes a day, you'll be able to read a book every month. Now, the whole program and course is to increase your words per minute from, let's say, 200 to 600. Therefore, you're going to be able to, read many more books per month. And that's a course that I'm taking right now. So I can't really tell if it's going to be effective or not. But anyways, I thought it was just curious to share with you guys.
But I have a lot of my friends in Germany that actually they took those courses and they saw tremendous difference. They said that they can, right. they started to read much faster, and they were able to really increase the number of books that they were reading, and it's completely true. So some of them were able to. They were reading. I know a couple of them they were reading like one book a month, as you said, and then some of them started to read one a week because the improvement was
the reading rate increased. Yeah,
exactly, and they could they were able to just by taking this kind of courses, they were able to increase their amount of words per minute, and they with the same effort. That's the interesting part, right?
Yeah, so exactly.
It's huge because if you can start with utilizing the same time and you can start reading much more, it's very, very, very powerful.
Exactly.
My friend Venâncio, thank you so much. Was really a pleasure. Was really cool. I think the way how you described, I was very impressed with the way how you described what you guys are doing in Genial Investimentos. I think it's really smart how you took a lot of ideas from Rogers and you implemented. So really thanks. Thank you for your insights, your advice, your experience. It was a pleasure and man. Thank you once again. It was an honor to have you.
The pleasure was all mine, Luis. Thank you for everyone of Evolution for All who is listening to this podcast or this live. And see you guys later.
See you, man. Bye-bye.
Thanks for listening to the Adapt podcast. Head on over to www.adaptmethodology.com/scorecard to benchmark your ability as a leader to adapt your entire organization to the digital era. You will be able to identify plenty of opportunities for leveraged growth.